You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast, established 2019. Direct from the North Wales coast, his verbal skills definitely outweigh his wrestling ability. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer!
Well, we are back. It's the second episode of 2023. This is episode 140 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast. I go from doing nothing for a month and I give you two guests in 1 week. That's just how we roll on this show. And we are heading to Wisconsin. And I know another guy from Wisconsin, friend of the show, Justin Clapper, but it's not him today. It's our second ever referee on Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's Mr. Dan Perch coming on SWP today, all the way from Wisconsin. Dan, how are we, sir?
Stu, thank you so much for having me. Absolutely my pleasure to be here with you and everybody throughout the world listening. The weather here in Milwaukee is about at 25 degrees and snowy, and I could not be happier.
Thank you so much. Now, you've been very, very busy for various promotions. I know you've done a lot with GCW, AAW out of Chicago that are very well known on a world stage, Warrior Wrestling, and you were here with GCW for TNT for the big clash last year, man. So yeah, you've done a lot. You've done so much. Just some of your experiences, you know, in refereeing, donning the zebra, donning the stripes.
Yeah, you know, it's incredible to be a student of this business. You know, to have gentlemen like yourself who do podcasts and journalism, whether it's photography or articles written or videos, we all come together for the same passion, and that's for the sport and the show of professional wrestling. The one thing I've found through the travels is no matter what part you have in the show, we're all going to come together, and we're all linked with one thing, and that's that passion for our sport. So whether you're from Milwaukee or Liverpool or, you know, anywhere else throughout the entire world, we all speak that same common language, which is pro wrestling. And it allows, you know, being a student of the business just opens up the whole world to you to learn. Every opportunity is a learning experience.
When did you begin? When did you set foot into the business? Now, I know you've done a bit of pro wrestling as well as the refereeing. So yeah, just the genesis of that, when it began, man, coming into the business and learning the business. I love hearing about the start that you guys make in the business, have made in the business.
Yeah, great question, Stu. I started in January of 2018. So this is my 5-year anniversary this month from when I first stepped foot into wrestling training school. I joined a school called the Thumper's Den in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the main trainer, Beer City Bruiser from Ring of Honor.
Big fan of his.
Yeah. So he's my wrestling dad. He's taught me everything from skills to stepping inside the ring to handling yourself inside the ring. I came in with the mentality of, I want to learn everything in this business. I want to learn how to wrestle, how to ref, how to announce, how to take photos, how to set up the ring. Starting with, I just want to be the guy who sets up the ring. I want to help out the show. So I figured the best spot to start would be joining a training school and learning everything from the ground up. So luckily there's a school, Thumper's Den, ran by Frankie DeFalco, right here in Milwaukee, and he runs a show called Brew City Wrestling in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and all throughout the entire state during the fairs and festival seasons. We do a lot of shows. So working and training through the school, I was able to make my debut in April. So about 3-4 months in, I had developed skills to referee a match, and had my debut, and it was an absolute blizzard in the middle of spring break, with tons of family, tons of friends there. 2018, it was close to home too, about 20 minutes from my home, so really felt like a home game. and worked a few matches that day and got the nod to work the main event on the show. I said, "Hey, Perch, you're working out so well. We'll give you the opportunity to work with Greg the Hammer Valentine in the
No
final
way.
match."
Oh, come on, man. Were you nervous? Being a woman,
Yeah.
or were you okay?
Oh, you're damn right we're nervous. Oh yes, dude. That's the fun part that I learned about pro wrestling and the magic of show days is you're gonna get those butterflies, but turning those butterflies to adrenaline and really giving it everything you got and firing up when it comes to working your job out there. So yeah, I learned what it was like to turn those nerves into a do or die situation and get the job done.
How was the Hall of Famer, Greg, the Hammer Valentine? And man, he was in amongst it. I think underappreciated actually for what he did, because you hear how tough he was, how good he was in the ring. How was your interactions with Greg on that day, and did he impart any wisdom and any knowledge to you?
Yeah, just absolutely legendary. The experience with him was incredible. Had always heard and seen him growing up from the old footage and legendary footage, and him and Roddy Piper with their big feud and dog collar match. Um, but this instance was my first time ever meeting a legitimate legend in the business. So I was just very polite. I introduced myself to him. I let him know that I'd have his match, and he said, "Great, just keep your eyes open." And from there, I've always kept it with me. Um, always be aware of what's going on, as well as anytime I've seen or heard of Greg since then, it's brought me right back to my introduction to the role of a referee.
What a hot start for you there. Earning your stripes, as I use a bit of a pun there, but yeah, earning your stripes from the first day, man.
Yeah, yep. So from the first day, things went well, and then I started traveling all throughout southeastern Wisconsin, working every show I could, helping set up and tear down, work the merchandise, help out people, give them rides to shows. Eventually, I started working for those shows that I was helping out with, started traveling all around the entire state of Wisconsin, and then started venturing out to the Midwest a little bit through Illinois and Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana, all throughout, and continued to progress and meet people along the way. The funnest part is the journey of it all, meeting people that you'd never otherwise, have encounters with, other like-minded individuals coming from different walks of life, but trying to achieve the same goal. That was the really hidden gem that I found along the way, and it continues to motivate me every time I step into a new building or a new venue or a new state, a new country. Just knowing that I'm here to do a job and I'm with other students and we're all learning this business together. So we're going to make it through together and we're going to have a damn good time in the process has kind of been the mentality since day one.
Oh, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah, I always ask talent, anybody within the industry. A lot of people, majority of people love being on the road who I've spoken to. So yeah, you've spoken about going into Illinois, Minnesota, other places, man. You look like you enjoy the road as well,
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny to look back through the photos throughout the years, because I've been taking photos since day one in pro wrestling, to see about how I enjoyed the road trips from the start to how I enjoy them now and how much different they've been. Before joining wrestling, 25, 30 minutes was a long drive. My goodness, it felt like you'd have to plan a whole day around a 30-minute drive. Before you know it, time flies, and now I'm making 8-hour drives home because I gotta work in the morning. Yeah, I absolutely love the road trips and the road. Uh, if I'm going solo, I'll make sure I have good music, good podcasts to listen to. If I'm going to a bigger company, I'll usually offer to give rides to people, whether they need to be picked up at the airport or a hotel and brought to the venue. So then I'll have people in the car that I'm kind of picking their brain a little bit or talking about just daily stuff with. Those are always fun. And then other car trips are with fellow students that I train with. We used to load up car with 4 or 5 of us and head out. As time's gone on, now it's me and maybe 1 or 2 other students who may hop in the car and now I'm getting those guys their first kind of exposure to different shows and different venues, different people, much like I was exposed to a few years ago. So yeah, lots of different styles of car trips, and I really enjoy traveling on the road.
It's amazing. It's amazing, man. Yeah, I'd like to extend off it. Obviously, other matches that you've officiated that stand out, and I'm gonna put some graphics in of yourself as well as we talk about this. But yeah, just some memories being in there and reffing, man. And like over the years, when I watched it years ago, I never thought about the ref needing to know about camera as well as the talent knowing about cameras and stuff like that. So yeah, extending off that. But yeah, your experiences, man, things that stand out. I know there's going to be countless memories for you.
Oh yeah, and it really goes back to the early days, in learning how to pour the emotion into every performance and to give everything I've got. Pro wrestling is based so much off of emotions and using our adrenaline, using our brains, using our bodies to convey emotion and to garner it from the audience. Early on, I learned a lot from working with Sierra, a wrestler here in Milwaukee. She's making her rounds. She's kind of like my older sister in the business. But I understood from her the emotion that you can pour into a match. And when she was working matches early on in my reffing days, I found that I can feed off of this emotion as well. Two wrestlers have a feud or have differences to be settled, meaning they've got some emotion for or against one another. Me as a referee, it taught me to feed off of that emotion as well, and to kind of garner it and to ride the wave as well, and to tell that story that these two wrestlers are telling, but to try and carry that emotion over to the crowd. So one of the earliest lessons was to try and be in tune with everybody and match that energy and match that emotion.
That's cool, man. That's cool. You can see how serious. Yeah, I know you have to take it seriously, of course, but it's good to hear, and it's good to hear how you go about it, man. Absolutely, absolutely. Now I've got to ask you. You've officiated for GCW, a very hot promotion, known worldwide. They've done very, very well. They're well known. They're well known across the world now. So yeah, GCW, high caliber, guys on their cards, and the shows are fantastic. I've watched clips of matches. I haven't watched like full events, but obviously I have seen like when the Briscoes have been on. God bless Jay Briscoe's soul as well, I must say. But yeah, there's been matches I have seen, and obviously clips and things. But yeah, your experiences with GCW, man, because it's a very hot promotion, and it has been for a while.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And like you said, rest in peace to Jay Briscoe. Was able to learn a lot from working with him over the past year in GCW. The atmosphere of a Game Changer Wrestling crowd and show is like a rock and roll show. It's like Kiss is coming to town, and this barn is going to be rocking. Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I work a lot throughout the Midwest when GCW comes through, as well as the collective, which will come to WrestleMania weekend all throughout. Made it out to the East Coast for my first time for New Year's and New Year's Day out in Jersey, the boardwalk. But yeah, it's just incredible to be able to learn the art of pro wrestling and to study territories and crowds from what I call the back of a ring truck. You get to see the world and experience it from setting up and tearing down in a different town. One of my favorite parts is, before the show gets going, the anticipation of the crowd and the line at the door. Sometimes I'll be the gentleman taking, tickets or handing wristbands on because I genuinely love it. I love greeting fans at the door and feeling that anticipation of the show they're about to see. Love watching as people walk in the door and see the venue for the first time. So knowing it's a company like Game Changer Wrestling, where we're putting everything we can out there to give the fans the top of the line, the state of the art, top level independent professional wrestling, you can just see the joy that every fan has as they walk into that building, and I love it. It gets me hyped, and gives me motivation to perform inside that ring once the show starts.
What have been some of your favorite matches? officiating for GCW? Must ask you that.
Yeah, been some wonderful ones. Really, ones that hit me during the week. That, oh my God, was this a real match that took place? But I'm always able to learn so much from it. One in particular was a match with Too Cold Scorpio going against Jonathan Gresham for the ROH World Title at the time. That was such an honor to work with. I'd worked with Scorpio once before, and maybe twice before. I worked with him and Minoru Suzuki as well in Detroit,
Wow.
which was phenomenal. But then this time with Gresham in Chicago was incredible. Good storytelling, good old school working mentality between them. Later that night, had a match with the Briscoe brothers defending their GCW Tag Team Championships against the Rejects, Reed Bentley and John Wayne Murdoch. That was just a hard-hitting main event in Chicago that had the crowd feeling it from every end of the arena. The energy the Briscoes brought was crazy. Had another Art of War match last September in Chicago, a double cage, double ring, 5 teams of 2 in there. Briscoe brothers defending their titles against SGC and Effie and Allie, Los Macizos, and Cologne and John Wayne Murdoch. Incredible match. Ref Adam Galt was in one ring and I was in the other ring, and pure chaos ensued for the next 40 minutes or so until we had new champions crowned. That match will always stick out in my mind from being a recent one, but very fun.
We've got a comment. I just want to segue to Mr. Clapper, a fellow Wisconsin guy. 2 great guys right here. Thank you, JC. As are you. Hope you're
Thank
good.
you, Justin. Much love to you.
Hope you're good, man. If you've got any questions, Clapper, that'd be nice. I know you've had Dan on a couple of times for your show, but yeah, it's good, man. Yeah, I can only imagine going back to that. Just like 5 teams of 2. It must have been, as you say, just mad. Like your attention on that must have been incredible.
Yeah, it really was. The year before, I had helped set it up and get everything set from the back, so I was able to watch and observe everything and take notes and study and see what was all about to happen. And then fast forward to the following year, having the opportunity to be in there. Keeping that head on a swivel the entire time, keeping the eyes open again from that day one. The advice still paying off. In watching everything and staying prepared. Anticipation is key in those kinds of matches and being ready for anything. Remember taking a photo afterwards, and in the GCW logo had a perfect half blood marked on it. half red.
nothing more true there when you're talking about GCW. That's how it's done, isn't it? That's a statement.
Yeah.
That's a statement on that shirt. Absolutely.
Yep.
So yeah, man, absolutely. And cool. Just extending off what you were saying. I've stayed in New Jersey when I went to WrestleMania, but I haven't been to the boardwalk. We didn't manage to get there. So yeah, just again, the places you get to see. You must pinch yourself sometimes.
Yeah, I love it. Coming from Wisconsin here, we've got a lot of farmland, open air, and beautiful landscapes. Computer desktop background landscape. So anything other, that's like my standard for viewing. So anytime I'll go into a bigger city or a spot by an ocean or see a palm tree or something, yeah, I'm just blown away completely. One of the coolest places that I got to visit this year was the Baltic Triangle in Liverpool.
Yes, I know it. I know it well, of course. It's only an hour away from here.
Yeah, what an incredible... My eyes were open so big that day with all the architecture around there. In the background, you can see giant, to me, they look like castles. But right in the foreground is more kind of modern, some graffiti on walls and buildings. Giant skate park out there, which was awesome. You've got the water close by. Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Baltic Triangle. I like finding a coffee shop or a breakfast joint at any place I go to. And right there, a spot called 92 Degrees was pretty damn good for coffee. I loved it. And that helps me feel in tune or feel at home no matter where I'm at. If I can find a good coffee joint and just kind of settle in. And I think it was all Americanos out there, if that's what they're called. I like a straight
Yeah,
black
yeah.
coffee. So.
Cool, man. Cool. I'm going to have to ask you, obviously, we're over here for GCW versus TNT, and obviously it was over 3 nights. So, yeah, getting it, how long are you in the UK? Being booked for that, and yeah, just more experiences in the UK being over here, man.
Yeah, it was wild. Liverpool is where we stayed, and Hangar 34 is where we wrestled and officiated. TNT wrestling was super cool. Jay and Mad Dog getting to meet out there. What some characters, my goodness. Kindred spirits inside the pro wrestling world to meet. You can go all the way halfway across the world and meet people who are just like you and find the same passion and the same joy out of pro wrestling. It was so cool. The fans out there were amazing. Wild parties the entire time. People just going nuts. Absolutely loved it. Fun matches too, getting to meet all the wrestlers out there. The referees too. Ref James Greenwood, what a saint of a man.
He's fantastic. I've been commentating on shows and just watching him. Unbelievable. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he sets the standard, and I was able to learn a lot from him and take it back to the States moving forward. Referee Scott Bell out there too. What a great dude. Just a true blue professional. Loved working with him. And LK too. What a great referee she was. Another person who I learned from watching. We're all students in this business, so whether you've been in for a long time or a short amount of time, we all learn from each other, and we're all out there getting reps. So, yeah, super cool people to meet. Kings of the North of a tag team. Holy smokes, those guys brought it. Got to work with them a couple times throughout the weekend against Joe Lando and Callum Newman in one of the matches. Those guys really brought it too. Clint Margera against Alex Colon in a ladder match for the TNT Extreme title was such a cool match. Clint is a true deathmatch wrestler. Like him, good style and a solid wrestler. First time getting to meet. Big Joe as well out there. Holy smokes, that guy brings it. I had heard from a lady out here, a photographer, who knew Big Joe and spoke kindly of him. So when I first met him, it was just a good dude from the start. But yeah, so much fun checking out the downtown and in downtown Liverpool, the buildings, the venues, everything was just incredible. But yeah, that skate park right by the hangar was one of my favorite session spots to just kind of hang out and drink a coffee and call the family and show them on FaceTime.
When did you find out you were coming here? You know, how long was it, from doing the show? But yeah, when did you find out you were coming to the UK? When was it put to you?
Yeah, maybe a month or two in advance. I was provided the opportunity, and yeah, was prepared and take full advantage of the opportunity. Ref Scarlett Donovan from the West Coast, from Los Angeles, and myself represented the United States and went out to Liverpool. It was her first time and my first time too. So yeah, we can do a couple months out in advance.
Cool. That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm going to put some more images in because obviously there's a few images that we need to put in that we haven't shown yet, and then just getting your reaction to said images, I think. So yeah, here we go.
Oh yeah, this has been a wonderful start to 2023 so far. Every weekend has had some great action. Freelance Wrestling on IWTV. It takes place in Chicago, and that's where the picture on the top left comes from. Ricky Morton was in town taking on Robert Ego Anthony for the Freelance World title. Man, Ricky Morton, just a legend. I've gotten to work with him a few times at GCW. Gotten to work with his son a couple times as well. Ricky is someone who I always like to pick his brain and learn from. So anytime I get to experience a match with him, it's just out of this world. A true veteran. Leon Slater to the right there from the UK. Met him when I came over for GCW, first TNT. Man, young and a star. Incredible. Super nice, too. What a good dude. He took on Nick Wayne at the Showboat in Jersey, right on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, New Jersey. They had a banger of a match on New Year's Day. Yeah, Nick Wayne and Leon are about similar size. Leon may have a little bit more height, but it was such a good matchup. I think 18 and 17 years old between the two of them too. So, yeah, as far as future stars go, that match was such a emotional roller coaster and an honor to be a part of.
So cool, man.
And the picture on the bottom there took place in South Bend, Indiana, for Warrior Wrestling, and that was a vacant Warrior Wrestling Lucha title, which is the one pictured on the left, which was up for grabs, and also being defended that night was the AAA Mega Championship, which you see on the right, from El Hijo de Vikingo versus Rey Horace versus Flamita. 3 luchadors. It was my first time getting to work with El Hijo de Vikingo. I had worked with Flamita and Rey Horace periodically throughout the past couple of years, working lucha shows in Chicago. I like working lucha shows in Chicago because I'm able to learn the style, learn the art, learn the language. Gringo Loco is an incredible helper, as well as Jonathan and Martine from the Wrestling with Unicorns. Those brothers have helped just tremendously with allowing me to pick their brains and learn wrestling Spanish. So the ability to learn Spanish to use inside the ring goes tremendously long ways when working with luchadors from out of country on any given night. So such an honor to have the opportunity to work lucha matches and lucha main events. And it's so much fun working hard to learn the style, learn the subtleties, learn the language. But it's such a rewarding feeling. and always there's so much more that I can be doing feeling as well. So I really
cool that you've been in with all different styles of match as well, as you say, man. But how is it when they're so fast paced and you being in there? Are you cautious about where you are? Because obviously they're so fast and just rapid. Or are you quite all right with it?
Yeah, keeping your head on a swivel at all times. Like we mentioned before, always kind of looking out for cameramen and people who are ringside. I always refer to that as the working the trenches, all the cameramen and videographers working ringside. So keeping a close eye on those guys, between them and myself, we're all about keeping each other safe. So if there's something coming, I'll kind of look out for those guys, and vice versa. If something's coming up in the ring, and I may feel a tap on my foot to allow me to watch out. So it's all about keeping your head on a swivel, keeping the heart rate regulated, and being prepared for anything and being able to move quick. I definitely wear my wrestling shoes for lucha matches for a little quick mobility. So there is a little game change that I've put in there.
highly aware of what's going on. That's good. That's good to hear, man. Also, you've been in PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It's very, very recently that you posted this. So I'm going to throw another graphic in. But yeah, here we go. In the centre there, as you can see, right, slap bang in the centre. They are front and centre on screen. But yeah, how did that feel seeing that in print format? That you're on, the most well-known wrestling publication there ever has been.
Yeah, just incredible. I've been such a wrestling fan since I can remember, and I've always remembered anytime going to the store, telling my parents I'm going to look at the magazines. Great, I'll be by the magazines. It's just a way of life. Anytime I went to the store, looking for wrestling magazines. So I've been a PWI subscriber for a long, long time, and when I first entered the wrestling business, I figured it would be a cool to set a goal to one day be in a PWI magazine. If I continue to do things right and, be a student of this business and, take the path the right way, one day maybe that could be a byproduct of it. So, by setting short-term and medium-term goals, eventually moments like that, like we saw right here, came up, which was just such an honor. I'm gonna write him a nice little handwritten thank you note to the PWI folks to thank them for a little inclusion in there.
I can only imagine seeing that, the joy you must have had, because we all I read it. I used to read the magazine for years and years. Obviously, we had our UK based publications as well. We had Power Slam, which was always like a go to for me. So yeah, just to see it in print form, man, and like you've had that magazine yourself for years. Just can only imagine, Dan. Can only imagine how elated you were.
Yeah, that before wrestling, 25 minutes was a long drive. Fast forward to that photo, I drove all the way down to southern Indiana, blew out a tire, had to fix a tire on the side of the road, put a donut on the side of the highway, and go into town, get it fixed, get a new one put on. I met up with referee Max Recon from GCW down in Evansville, Indiana, and he drove 2 hours to Nashville, Tennessee, where we were at for Ric Flair's final match weekend. So finding that travel for the art of pro wrestling to earn a match with Takeshita against Nick Wayne in that match too, and then to have a photographer like Allie from that area to take a photo of it, and then to somehow get it to PWI, and to be in so many different factors that go into that moment happening. But it's just a blessing to be a student of this business and to have moments like that where people can see the hard work that pays off. And definitely showed Pops and my brother and the fam, and they were like, "Hey, nice job. This means we're on the right track," which is cool.
That's cool, man. No, that's cool. That's so good. I've got to ask you. I like asking guys, obviously within the industry in their specific fields. People want to become referees. They might not know what the best course of action is. Getting their foot in the door. Obviously, got to get known, haven't you, and things of that nature. Go to a school. But yeah, what would Dan Perch's tips be for budding, referees that want to get into the business? I'd like to ask you that from your perspective, and how to do it, how to go about it, what you would do. Maybe not what not to do as well. Would be cool.
Yeah, yes, dude, absolutely, man. Great, insight here. Like I said, I went to a show and saw the guys tearing down the ring at the end, and I said, I just want to be that guy who's loosening the cables on the bottom of that ring, because that guy is obviously in on the show. He's not working it. He's not a wrestler on it, but maybe one day he will be, and he's further along than I am right now, sitting in the stands. So I set that as my goal. I just want to be that guy, and so the mentality of walking in and finding a training school and accepting yourself to start at the very bottom, and to always take that mentality of the low man on pole, but to always strive for more, and keep your mouth closed, keep your eyes and ears open, because walking into the business, you're not going to know more than someone else who's experienced it, and if you do, then just keep it in, and it'll come out in due time. So when you first start, keep your mouth closed, keep your eyes and ears open, and learn and soak in as much as you can, and take in as much as you can, because then in time there'll be people who are learning from you, and vice versa. It's like a cycle that we go on. You start out as a new student, you set up and you tear down rings thanklessly over and over, because it's what we do. It's what we have to do. It's we give our hard work before we ever look to get anything or feel that we deserve anything. This business doesn't owe you anything, and you owe everything to the business. So those were some tips that I learned right away that took me a few years to fully understand, and I'm still understanding road trip after road trip level of importance that they have. So work hard, treat people fairly, and earn respect were some words that Adam Pearce told me, and I've always held on true.
Good sound advice from him as well. Absolutely. Like you say, yeah, just have respect, isn't it, across the board with it? Like you say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Right, I've got to ask you, a dream match which you could officiate. What would be the dream match for you as a ref to be in there in the squared circle? And it can be a tag match, it can be a singles, triple threat, whatever you wish. But yeah, just guys that you'd like to be in there with as a ref, as an official.
Yeah, that's a wild concept. There's so many fun matchups, fun matches, lots of good characters, lots of good stories. I really enjoy good storytelling wrestling, and I like to be in there with guys who are able to give the old school workality and the old school values of pro wrestling. A couple of guys who I really looked up to tremendously when I first started in the business were the Beer City Bruiser and Silas Young, two Milwaukee wrestlers, and they were in ROH, and I loved watching them team up and a little bit of a feud. Two guys who I've had the privilege of working with before individually, but I've never worked a Silas versus the Bruiser match before. So I would say if those two could ever match up at any place, any town, America, or across the seas, I would be honored to have a Bruiser versus Silas Young match. That would kind of be a dream. Put it in a cage too. Make it a cage match. Out in anywhere.
Silas
we could set that up.
Silas did well with the television title in Ring of Honor as well, man. Another guy, they're not like, they're just down to earth, normal people, aren't they? But like, I think to see, and he the gimmick's just believable, isn't it? Tough guy, as long as you can get it over, which he can. Yeah, I was probably a little bit scared of him, if anything. I think watching him, I'd be scared of him if I was across the ring from him.
Oh yeah, I'd picture he's the guy who he's putting on his wrist tape while he's smoking a grit out back and puts out the cigarette, heads right through the curtain, and then hits the ring with a bad attitude.
That's amazing.
Meanwhile, Beer City Bruisers at the bar, holding court stories, joking with everybody. He hears his music and hold on, guys, hold this. I got to head in there and handle some bit. So
I got to attend to what I'm here to do. That's funny, man.
That's the dream right there, having those guys.
Dan, growing up, obviously what you've seen over the years, fan perspective now, matches that stood out for you as a fan watching on television, growing up, matches that have stayed with you. That'd be good. That'd be good to find out, who floated your boat as a youngster watching these guys,
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I had every action figure growing up. WCW was a thing. WWF was a thing. I was getting every one just for tons and tons. So there was so much good wrestling growing up. I fell in love with everybody. Jericho over in WCW was phenomenal. When it came over to WWF, was very fun to watch. Him and The Rock during that 2001 era, and Stephanie McMahon when they're cutting promos on each other. That's about as entertaining as wrestling gets. The Rock was always cool growing up, but I found that I absolutely loved this wrestler because I hated them to start and realized once I hate them, there's nowhere else to go but then to completely love everything they do. And that was Triple H. I thought he was such a growing up, and he would always foil Rock or Stone Cold or Cactus Jack, Mankind. But then I realized I absolutely love everything Triple H does. Through hating him, I found that I love this guy. I followed Triple H throughout, and he was my fave. Whether it was the early mid 2000s era, or even as recently as when he came back and won that Royal Rumble a few years ago, I was probably jumping up and down, going bananas. I was so happy. Triple H is always my fave. I think that feud that he had with Cactus Jack right in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, 99 era, is about some of the best matches and images I can remember. I absolutely love it.
That's cool. That's cool. That's amazing. That's amazing. Dan, before we go, shows that are coming up for you, what's on the schedule, what's on the calendar, and then where the viewers and listeners can find you in terms of social media to see your journey as a referee. That'd be cool, man.
Yeah, guys, catch me at Perch XLV on the social medias, Twitter and Instagram, and at Dan Perch on Facebook. Working lots of shows coming up. We've got All-Star Lucha Libre coming up this weekend. We've got Galley Lucha Libre coming up in a couple weeks in Chicago. Freelance Wrestling is coming up on Friday on IWTV. We've got AAW Wrestling coming up. That'll be at the Berwyn Eagles Club, and that's on High Spots Network. We'll be at the GCW JCW Jersey J Cup on the East Coast, and that'll be in Jersey City, Jersey, on the 11th of February. We've got some Warrior Wrestling coming up, and Black Label Pro coming up as well. And Women's Wrestling Army is always a fun show to work. They come into town, we take a bunch of shows, and they air on Wednesdays on Pro Wrestling TV. So lots of good action coming up. You can catch it on all the social medias. Definitely posting stuff and showing the flyers. And yeah, lots of fun action ahead.
You're a busy man, mate. That's a lot. That's bookings galore, that is, which is brilliant for you. I bet you that's amazing. Amazing. Just amazing. So plenty coming up for you and obviously for all them promotions. Fantastic.
Incredible. Like I said, it's a fun business to be a student of, and we can kind of make our own schedules and establish relationships in locker rooms with people that we want to gravitate towards. So I like working with people that push me and try to push me up to the next level and allow me to try and work up to their abilities. So I've got my notebook with me and taking notes every step of the way. Love working a lot of shows and getting that experience.
That's cool, man. That's cool. My guest today, the well-travelled pro wrestling referee. He's been to the UK last year. I'm sure he will be back. Held in high esteem, Mr. Perch, as well, let me tell you. And obviously, all the promotions that you work with, you've listed more, but obviously GCW, AAW, just a plethora of promotions that you're working for, man. And just thank you for talking about your journey, your start, and where you are now in the business. It's Mr. Dan Perch from Wisconsin, pro wrestling referee. And this has been episode 140 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast.
Thank you so much, Stu, and thank you, everybody. It was my pleasure.
Take care, Dan. Thank you very much, mate.
Hey, take care, Stu. Thanks again.